Good evening. My name is Kevin O'Reilly, and I'm with the Santan Valley Advisory Council.
That mic's not on.
Nope. Good evening. My name is Kevin O'Reilly, and I'm with the Santan Valley Advisory Council. Okay, how's that? Can you people hear it?
Not really.
Just project your voice.
That's right.
No, we need it for the recording.
The switch on. It's not dead.
Test. Okay. Again, for the third time, my name is Kevin O'Reilly, and I'm with the Santan Valley Advisory Council. For those of you who don't know who we are, we were set up by the County Board of Supervisors to act as a liaison between the county and the Santan Valley area. As you probably know, we're an unincorporated area, so in some regards, we're invisible to the county. From the standpoint of not having a city council, etc. So what we try and do is facilitate communication between the county and between the community of Santan Valley. A couple of administrative things real quick. Just note the fire exits. If you get confused, just follow me. Restrooms. If you go out the glass doors here and just walk right along the wall right here, they're right behind us on the left. Okay, tonight we are, one of the things that we try and do is have these education sessions. We've had multiple of them, and tonight we're very fortunate to have 3 representatives from the county development services, which consists of public works and community development. 3 people on the dais are Brent Billingsley, who is the Community Development Director, to my left, and then to my right is, again, Chris. What's going on? Okay, Chris Wanamaker, who is the county engineer, and Joe Ortiz. Joe Ortiz. They don't like the name. Okay, he is the Development Services Managing Director. And so with that, our premise will be they're going to put on a little demonstration or presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions. Okay? Let's go.
I'd like to do a quick intro of who we are, what we do.
Absolutely. Whatever you guys want.
And then
Oh, wait, I forgot one thing, I'm sorry. We're very fortunate. Must be me. We're very fortunate tonight to have Neil Carter, who is our state representative for Santan Valley, attending tonight. So thank you for coming.
thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to sit with you folks and talk about what we do here at Pinal County, and specifically from the development services side. As was mentioned here recently, we combined our public works department and our community development department into development services to help facilitate some of that. Basically, there were 2 sister departments, and it made more sense if they were all under one umbrella, just because there's so much sync between the 2. And from a resident standpoint, honestly, you probably don't care if it's community development, public works. I just need a permit, or I need this road fixed. So this way, it combines both. It's not just him. So we can combine both and back in August. And so far, so good. We were able to collaborate with, maybe I should just yell. We were able to collaborate and combine some of our sections that were basically giving us the opportunity to put staff where it needed to be, the horsepower where it needed to be. Some of those examples are both sides had administrative support. So we were able to combine those two and basically able to expand on the support for the whole team. We were also able to do the same thing with our county. Both sides have a county. So now we're able to take on a little bit more horsepower, put that horsepower where it needs to be. And the other big thing, it kind of broke down. It wasn't barriers that were intentional, but whenever you have two departments like that, it ends up being, okay, this is my side of the world, this is your side of the world. And we needed to break that barrier. We don't need that. We need, okay, we're just one big team. How do we work together to get things done? So real quick, on the public works side, that entails mainly roads, our existing roads, and maintaining those existing roads and putting in new roads, traffic control signals. These guys are the experts on right here for that side of the world, our county engineer. There are some roads, and just specifically, so you know which roads we actually maintain are Pinal County unincorporated right-of-way type roads. We don't maintain everything within Pinal County. There's Queen Creek, there's Town of Florence. They have their own jurisdiction, own limits. We don't maintain anything within their limits. There's some private roads within subdivisions that we don't maintain because those are private. But there are some outside of that we do take care of and maintain. Right now, we have approximately 2,000 miles worth of road that we maintain within Pinal County. Approximately 1,500 is paved roads that we have to maintain. And then we have about another 500 that's dirt road. So that's the quick gist of what we do on the public works side. On the community development side, that's Brent and his world. That's permitting, planning, zoning, building safety, code compliance. That's his world he lives in. So hopefully now you know who you're talking to, and hopefully you can get some questions answered. Turn it over to Brent, and he can give his bill.
All right. Test. Are we okay now? Okay. I'm told I'm all right.
Hold it close.
Hold it close. Got it. It's still cutting in and out. That's okay. Tell you what, I'm going to stand up because I'm a very loud person anyway, and I'll still hold the mic. So if it does pick it up from time to time, I can handle that. But I'll walk with you guys so you can kind of hear what I have to say and present tonight. First thing I wanted to say is there's some folks in the audience that I think it's important to introduce. Number one, Johnny Mendoza is joining us tonight from Florence, my ex-boss. We have Val Lujan. She is a district manager, and I'll explain a little bit about that later. And we have Harvey Kraus, who's also a district manager with the county, and they're very important resources and something that was just added to our department to help facilitate a smooth and expedient process. Andy, next slide, please. I don't want to seem like a glory hawk. That was not the intention. The story here is I called Haley, who's also in the back with Pinal County, with the supervisor's office on Tuesday, and I said, what's the expectation? She said, I don't know, but I'll find out. She called me back and said, you need a PowerPoint. So that night I went home and I put together a PowerPoint. So I'm not trying to upshow anybody else, but I was told to do it, so I did. What is community development? Community development is a lot of different things, but the way I see it is cradle to grave for development. From the idea stage to the planning stage to engineering, zoning, comprehensive plan, clear to the end, which is code enforcement, which is after everything is already built, coming back in and making sure that things are being maintained and property values are being maintained. The most important thing on this slide is the first bullet, and that's why we're here tonight. one of community development's main purpose is that first bullet, and that is citizen participation and public input. In our world, that's a very important component and something that we spend a lot of time and effort on trying to satisfy. Go ahead, Andy. What does that mean? When a project comes through Pinal County, there are a lot of different people that touch it. So when you hear planning or planning department for a site plan approval or a zoning approval, it's not just the planning department. There are a whole lot of folks, internal and external, that are part of those processes. From the engineering group, flood control, traffic, building safety is involved, air quality, aquifer protection. There's all these different departments that are part of these reviews to provide projects and products to you folks that are quality and build community. But that's not without help from our utility providers, one of which is sitting over here running the slides for me today, our state and federal entities that we work with, and even school districts that we work with on projects to make sure that they're designed properly, that school sites are dedicated for future education of kids within communities. They're all part of that community development process. Please, Andy. Planning. Everybody, when they think community development, the first thing that comes to mind is planning. What is planning's role? And I know we're going to have some questions later tonight. I think it's important to kind of describe the various tools that we have in our toolbox to help provide the information to the Board of Supervisors to make a decision. At the highest level, let's say 20,000 feet, is the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is not a zoning document. It is purely a plan. It's an idea that the county is actually required every 10 years to update, to work with the people of the county to determine what is the future of Pinal County going to look like. Where are the residential areas going to go? Where are the industrial developments going to go? Where do we need commercial? The last update of the comprehensive plan was in 2018. We have authority to do the planning level work and make the decisions to assist through Arizona revised statute. That's what ARS stands for. So when you go from the comprehensive plan, the next level of that is called an area plan. I don't know if anybody in this room knows, but Santan Valley actually has an area plan, which is more specific than the comprehensive plan in terms of what the Santan Valley area wants in their area. And I believe, Joe, that was done in 2020. The next level is zoning. Zoning is what us planners refer to as the police power. That's the ability to control the design standards and the type of development that occurs on properties with the intent of preserving public health and safety. You don't want to have a power plant next to a residential development. You don't want to have a huge commercial center that is out in the middle of nowhere and not near where people are going to drive and go to it. That's what zoning is about. And the planning department administers the zoning ordinance. The next level is the actual design by subdivision, which is then engineered and implemented. And that's kind of the hierarchy and how that works. So the planning department serves as a liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which makes recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. Go ahead. Building safety. These are the people you see walking around in hard hats and yellow vests on construction sites. As part of the building safety department, they receive permit applications, they review them, and they permit residential projects, commercial projects, industrial projects, patios, additions, accessory dwelling units, electrical upgrades, plumbing upgrades to satisfy the building codes. And as part of that, not only do they do the review of all those projects to make sure that they're safe and they meet national standards, but then they actually go on site and review at stages these individual projects to make sure that they're being built properly and that they're safe, not only for the occupants there today, but the public that might visit them and the people that may buy those buildings in the future or those improvements. Next slide. Aquifer protection. These are the guys that when you introduce them, people go, ooh, guys, they're the sewer folks. they're the septic folks. that do the permitting and review of all the wastewater treatment facilities in Pinal County. It's not just septic systems that they look at. They also are the ones that inspect all the waste hauler trucks. So when the Dapper Dan truck goes in to pump out the porta potties, you know that Pinal County inspected those trucks to make sure that they're safe. We also process well permit applications. So it's not all on the sewage side. They deal a little bit in the water world as well. Go ahead. Co-compliance. This is, as I said before, cradle to grave, the folks that are on the end of that process. There's typically 3 types of cases that code enforcement officers get involved in. Violations of the zoning code, violations of the building code, specifically buildings and improvements that are done without a permit and may not be safe. And then the last one is nuisance, trash, and debris. Does somebody have a bunch of garbage in their front yard, or junk cars, or the garbage is spilling out onto the street, or the fence is falling over? Those are the types of things that code enforcement does, but they don't do it alone. They work with the county attorney's office, something that's kind of unique. I come from the city world before I came to the county. Something that's unique for some of the counties in Arizona is they actually have their own civil hearing group within the county. So not everything is dumped on the Superior Court. One of the things that we have in the Community Development Department is a civil hearing office. We have civil hearing officers, essentially judges, that hear cases so that they don't go to Superior Court as an intermediary on non-felony offenses. And then lastly, we work with the Superior Court for those instances where it's egregious and there's an actual legal action. We work through Superior Court with that. The last one here is actually Chris's world, but I included it in the slide just to make sure that everybody understood what we do not do in a vacuum in community development. There is a whole lot of interface that occurs on a daily basis with Chris's group in engineering. And much like those others, they have a permitting process, they have a plan review process, and they have an inspection process, just like a number of those other departments. What do they permit? Right-of-way permits, flood control permits, grading and drainage approvals, utility approvals, and then plan review on all of those different things, from traffic to grading and drainage, to actually processing the plats which create the parcels to be developed. And then similarly, they have a group of inspectors that goes out and inspects those improvements when they're being provided to make sure that they're being done per design standards and to make sure that they're safe. I think that's my last slide. With that, I'll shut up and let Chris talk.
All right, thank you, Brent, I appreciate that. Yeah, so engineering is my world, and so a lot of what we do has to do with development. We review everything that comes in, make sure that it's meeting minimum standards, that's going to be safe and done to a high quality. Because ultimately, like when a developer builds a road, for example, we have to maintain that. We're going to own that infrastructure, so we want to make sure it's done correctly and that it's going to last for as long as possible. Other things that our section does is we do projects, capital improvement projects where we build new roads. And so there was a map I put back there. Some of you guys were already here when I put the map back there. But this kind of highlights some of the major projects we've got going on right now, including road widening projects such as Combs Road and Kenworthy Road, so multiple traffic signals that we're working on, and also some flood control projects we're looking at as well. So, do you have anything to add?
No. I think that's about it. I think we kind of wanted to freeform with you. If you guys have any questions, please. I think there's a slip back there, or just raise your hand. We can go ahead. First question.
If a developer comes in and wants to do, let's say, a housing development, at what point does the public first become aware of that? And then at what point can the public provide input?
You want to, Chris, or you want me to have it?
Yeah, so if you're talking about a subdivision, so the public is informed early on in the zoning process, which, as Brett was talking about earlier, they may need an amendment to the comprehensive plan, they may need a rezoning, and they may need what we call a PAD, or planned area development, which helps kind of lock in some of the standards. So that's the public process. Now, if we already have zoning, like some of these subdivisions you see out here that are building, they got their zoning 20 years ago. So as long as what they're proposing as far as the subdivision goes is in conformance with that zoning and with the standards that are set forth in that zoning case, they can go straight to the plat process. So the plat process is not really a public process at that point. There are approvals that have to occur at the planning and zoning stage, commission stage, and board supervisors, but they're not public hearings because they've already gone through that public process. And if they want to change something like increase density or do some other things with like the road layout, that may trigger the rezoning process again.
So in the example you've just given, if they have the zoning 20 years ago, it's not like people now would know that was a plan, that the zoning was okay to have the development there. So they may not know that this new subdivision is going in if they're not in tune with, the Pinal County website or whatnot.
Yeah, so on the county website, there is a zoning map viewer, and anybody can go on there and see what the land next to them or the vacant land around the community, what it is zoned for. And then that will let you know what could be built on that property under the current, the zoning category that's there. Yeah, so, and then the zoning code is also on the website. So if you see a specific zone, you can look up that code and it'll list all the things that are allowed in there under that current zoning. So, and this is more Brent's role, but the zoning code does have limitations on what what you can do in that specific zone. So there are a lot of potential scenarios where rezoning would be triggered, which again is a public process.
And to tail onto that, this different zoning and the different codes, would that include intersections perhaps, or signals that you talked about that you have currently in the works?
Well, so when we go through a rezoning process with the developer, that is the county's opportunity to try to get the best product that we can, of course with public input. And so for some of these cases that were rezoned 20 years ago, obviously everything in our community is completely different. So we're going to go back to that developer, and they're asking us for rezoning. So we're going to ask them for contributions to things like signals, road improvements, and potentially other things. Like typically, and again, this is more principle, but typically with a rezoning, we're getting more amenities now, more open space, and a lot more out of the developer than what was required 20 years ago.
So you mentioned Combs and Kenworthy, and I'm really happy to see that happening because I live at Ocotillo and Schnapp and Paloma Ranch.
Yep.
So I would anticipate that that's such a bottleneck there that will end up becoming an intersection eventually.
Yes.
Signaled.
Yeah, so Combs and Kenworthy, that's really a pretty good project in that we did partner with many developers. That development agreement, I think there's 5 or 6 parties involved. We got contributions from 2 major home developers, several businesses along there, along the Combs Road corridor there. And then of course we had county money, and then we used impact fee money, which was money that we've collected over the last few years that developers pay for every building permit that they obtain. They pay an impact fee. So we take all that money and put it together to do that project. So you're going to see approximately, I think it's three signals with that project, 3 brand new signals, and of course road widening to 5 lanes on Combs, and a new bridge across the wash on Kenworthy.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Question back?
Regarding that,
Yes.
I was listening to you at the board supervisor meeting, you were explaining that, so appreciate all the work you do to bring them down and to make decisions. So when you talked about getting the money from the developers and you have the opportunity to grab them and say, hey, all these developers are coming hey, we're gonna pull this money, we're gonna get these, signals in, I could say, homes, whatever. So at what point do you get to tell them, or I don't even know if it's an opportunity, but say, hey, can you do the roads and the signal first before the developments? How does that work?
So that's a tough question because a lot of times the developer, once everything's approved, they kind of do their own schedule. And when we do our inspections, we have to make sure that the infrastructure is there to support those homes that are being built. And so we won't release certificates of occupancy on certain homes if they don't have the roads there. Now, there are some perimeter roads that they would have to build that don't affect certain areas, and so they'll come build that later. Actually, maybe a success story, we do have a developer that we've been working with for a long time. They're going to be doing improvements to Hunt Highway and Spring Valley, and Spring Valley actually will connect to Santan Heights Boulevard. They're going to build that first before they're developed. So I think that's a success, and we work with them for a number of months to do a roadway participation agreement in order to get that to happen. Now, technically, they could start work anytime. The permits are basically ready to go, but that is one that you'll see that they'll be building the roads first. It is a conversation we're having. Question?
When a builder wants to come in and they get all their permits, does anybody from your department actually go to the homes to make sure everything is in code compliance?
Yes, ma'am. Hello? Yes, ma'am. If I'm understanding you, I'll be loud. If I'm understanding you correctly. So when I had that slide up there about building safety, that's exactly what they do. They have to submit the plan to us. We review the plan to make sure it's to code. And then multiple times during the construction of that house, we go out there to inspect it. We inspect the foundation. We inspect we inspect the framing. We inspect the strap and shear, the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, to make sure that it's safe and it's all built to code. And if it's not, they don't get what's called a C of O, a certificate of occupancy. In order to have the electrical hooked up at the building, they have to have a certificate of occupancy so that they can actually occupy it.
So our community is actually involved in a lawsuit with the builder now. When they came out to inspect my house, they stood outside one of the side walls. They could push the wall out. Is that up to code?
But it's hard for me to respond to that because I don't know the house and where and when.
It's not just my house either. But yeah, he just took his hand like that and the wall moved back.
Well, I will tell you, as somebody who's worked in construction for a long time, if it's a 2x4 framed house, before it's strap and sheared, you can check the walls on it. But after it's strap and sheared and bolted to the concrete and the trusses are in, so there's horizontal stresses, there's vertical stresses, and there's latitudinal stresses on that house. Until you have all those connection points, you can push the walls, yes.
Well, my house was built in 2019.
So you're saying the house was done and you can now go push on the walls and the walls move? That's not good if that's the case.
Last year, an inspection was done for the lawsuit. Yeah. So how would that have been approved by you guys? when the house was being built?
I can't answer it, but after you get done here today, you can give me your name and your address, and I can look into it. Was a complaint ever made through the county?
It's part of the law. It's part of the lawsuit against the builder,
Who was the builder?
Meritage.
Homes? I can look into it for you.
Right down the road here.
No, a house that's fully constructed, you should not be able to push on the walls and have the walls move, no.
Yeah, mine's not the only one.
Okay.
So,
I wasn't aware of that. Were you, Joe? It's the first I'm hearing of it.
yeah, so that's why I'm wondering how, if you have inspectors come out, how would that have got past the inspectors?
Now, I wasn't here in 2019, but that's no excuse. I mean, those codes have been in place for a long time. I've never seen a house that's built that you can push on the walls and the walls move.